is Kaile. I'm multilineage. My dad is Kanaka, Japanese, and my mom is Mexican. I am gender nonconforming. I'm queer. I'm also exploring my Mahu identity. And all of these things are very meaningful to me because they've helped me liberate myself and also connect me to ancestors that I've always known are there, but now I'm learning their names. It means a couple things to me. So visibility is also being able to see myself and trying to remain open to who I am and how that changes over time. And it also means not being afraid to proudly be in the spaces that I find myself in, whether or not I feel it necessary to take up space. Just being in them, knowing who I am, and bringing that energy with me to the spaces that I'm in is what it means to be visible for me. I grew up in Logan, Utah. I'm a country bumpkin. Not really. I grew up very deeply Mormon. At least I didn't really believe in it. I just felt like in order to be loved, I had to adhere to this standard and fit myself inside a box as much as possible. So I grew up kind of angry. Angry at the world, frustrated with myself, angry with my family. And I was just telling them outside in the parking lot that I really should have known when during volleyball practice and with all my other friends, they were like, oh, like, let's give each other massages. And I got sweaty and went to the bathroom and just drank water and was like, oh, don't worry about me. But I was always taught to, not necessarily taught, but the expectation was to deny that and adhere again to that standard that I just knew wasn't me. I didn't really have a formal coming out, and honestly having one just I didn't really feel like I needed to do that. And I was very privileged to connect and have queer friends around me all my life, so I felt supported if I ever felt like I needed to. But I was actually married before, very heteronormative marriage. And I had this conversation with my ex, and I was like, I think I'm attracted to more than just men. And he was really cool with it. He was supportive. I think it was actually harder for me to accept that. And even now, I'm still like, you know, it changes and it gets complicated. You think you know one thing and then everything takes you for a whirl. So I actually came into many of my identities in my 30s. A lot of my 20s. I struggled with my family they tried really hard to contain me in a lot of ways. They reprimanded me for who I was, queer or not. And I know this wasn't their fault. They were also doing that for their own protection. So it's at this point in my life, I don't blame them for that. But the advantage is that I'm 30, 31, turning 32, and so if people don't agree with me, I'm learning to just not really give a shit about it. But the disadvantage is exploring that later in life and still figuring out who you are. I think a lot of people, you know, they're not interested in holding your hand, and that is also okay. They don't have to if you don't want to. I struggle in a lot of spaces, even with close friends and family, to feel like my presence is valued and desired and wanted. And so that's something that I still struggle with, but that comes from me. So it takes a lot of self-love and learning how to do that, and trying to do that in your 30s. I think it can be a little harsh, but I think that's fair to say of anybody. It's actually pushed me to learn, like really deeply learn my own Hawaiian ancestry. There are people very close to me that are not out, but have struggled with that in terms of like my family. And I've also been able to reconnect with my cousin who's non-binary and queer, and they're 12 years younger than me, and so I feel like I owe it to them to really stand in who I am. And getting to know my ancestors has really given me the strength to, no matter what, never give up on myself and never let myself down, because I have a whole team behind me and they come into every room with me. But they've also told me that, you know, I can learn about them as much as I want, and if I deny myself my own knowledge of myself, I'll never really truly know them either. Getting to know my culture, and holding that as deeply as I'm trying to hold myself has really helped me break down my own walls in my life. I would tell myself to never be afraid to ask for support, even if those people are physically not here. And that my grandmother she's gonna take every car ride with you. She's gonna walk into every room that you're scared of. She's gonna be with you in every interview, every tough conversation, every hard moment where you're just weeping on the floor. She will always be there with you. So don't be afraid to ask for her help when you need it. I think being a CHW, serving our Pasifika community, it's hard to tell them a lot of things that go against the grain. There's still a lot of elders and even younger people in our generation or in our community that struggle with how freely and expressive our Queer Pasifika community is, and that's a reflection of themselves. It has nothing to do with you and who you are. And I think I just want to tell them to hang in there. There are people that love you and are fighting for you, whether or not we know you yet. And if you give us a chance, like, we'll find you and we'll support you no matter what.